All right, welcome back everyone. Ryan here today for dpfdiscounter.com. So today we are going to change a outlet NOx sensor on a X15 Cummins emission system. Also, PACCAR MX later models are pretty well similar to this system as well, so kind of the same process here. So your outlet NOx sensor is located obviously on the outlet side of the system. Your inlet is up by the turbo underneath the hood. Well, first of all, I'll show you where it's at. So the actual module where it plugs in to the harness is kind of right back here in an inconvenient spot. The cable for it will come right down along here, and the actual probe is back here. So you have two very similar looking probes back here. They are different sizes. So this is the NOx sensor probe. This is one we're after. This is actually a particulate matter sensor or a soot sensor, depending on what manufacturer it is. One thing about them, they are different sizes. So this is a 22 millimeter and this is a 15/16 or a 24 millimeter will suffice as well. So this is one we're after, so don't mess with this one if you're going after a NOx sensor. So you can kind of tell because the PM sensor have like this little ribbed flexi joint type of piece on the top of it here, where the NOx sensors just come straight in with the sheathing. So first thing I want to do is go ahead and cut all these zip ties up through here. And be careful not to cut anything that you're not taking out. And I like to go ahead and pull what's left of the zip tie out of these little holders here, so that way you can put a new zip tie in it when you're reassembling. And again, this is the one we're after right here. Now, there are a couple different ways that you can get this probe out. So these typically do not come out easy. So if you're buying a aftermarket NOx sensor, like the ones that we sell on dpfdiscounter.com, where you don't have to return a core, the easiest solution I would recommend is to go ahead and just cut this off. Now what we're going to do is go ahead and put a 22 millimeter dipole socket right on top of it. Now obviously if you're buying an OEM where you have to return a core, it can be a little bit more difficult. But just to eliminate any issues with damaging the bung or anything, or rounding off this nut on here, we like to just put a full round 22 millimeter socket on there. Okay, so I have a variety of tools here. I buy from Snap-on. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm not endorsing them or anything like that, but that's the only one I can get to come to my shop, and he pretty much has everything I need and a lot of stuff that I like that makes these jobs a lot easier. So if you are trying to save a NOx sensor, if you're just removing it for some reason, you're going to put it back in. They make a split socket like this, 22 millimeter, that fits perfect over the NOx sensor. That way you don't have to cut the cord like I just did a second ago. So in our case, we're just going to put a full round regular dipole socket on it. That way we don't take any chance. I mean, since we know the NOx sensor is bad, we looked at the faults. It had a heater fault and another fault on there as well. So we're pretty well dead to rights that NOx sensor is bad. So we're obviously not putting it back in. That's why I'd rather just go ahead and cut it off, and I don't take any chance of stripping that off and getting into a big mess. So that's what we're going to use this. They also make this little wrench here, I guess you could call it. That is 22 millimeter as well, and is made specifically for NOx sensors. So usually I'll break it loose, and then I can get in there. If I'm trying to save the NOx sensor, you can get the cable through here. I'll break it loose with this, and then I can get in there with this. It's a little bit more flexible and easy to get around. So we're going to go ahead and use our full round socket. Pop that on there. Like I said, these can be challenging sometimes. And that one probably would have came out with the other split sockets. And I'll let you in on a little secret. I have taped these back together to the cord and sent them in for a cord. I've actually done it a lot. when we're using a lot more OEM stuff, and I've never been questioned about it. So I think they just rebuild the other end of it, or was what they used. So like I said, I have used electrical tape and taped them back up and sent them in. So we got that out of the way. Next thing we're going to do is go ahead and remove the module where it plugs into the harness. For that, we are going to need I believe, an 8mm to take the module loose from the bracket back there. So in an effort to not keep crawling in and out from underneath the truck, we're going to need an 8mm deep well, and then I'll usually grab a little flat tip screwdriver and a little pick to take the harness loose in here. So. Okay, so here's the module that you're going to remove. So first I'm going to take this little flat tip. Sometimes you can't get it in. There's a little notch here. You want to be really careful with these. So kind of slide that in and just kind of work it back and forth. These sometimes they're fragile and they'll break. So once you get it started, pull it about that, ½ inch or so out. Go ahead and pull it out the rest of the way. And as you pull it, it'll slide out. So we got that out of the way. We're gonna take our 8mm. Okay, and there we have the NOx sensor. Now that we have our old sensor out, they actually give us the part number. If you're looking to go aftermarket, or if you are buying OEM, you already have the part number. So on this particular one, it's going to be that 4326874. So that's the part number you're looking for. And it's actually on the back as well right there. So if you're trying to cross it on a website such as dpfdiscounter.com or otherwise, that's the number you need to put in. Okay, so we're going to start the second part of this video. We're going to go ahead and reinstall our new NOx sensor. So we use the Skyline NOx sensors that are on dpfdiscounter.com. If you do happen to get on the website, there are two different product lines, I guess you could say. There's ones with an SNX prefix, that's Sierra November X-ray, and an ANX, that's Alpha November X-ray. So the difference is the ones that start with an A is Alpha, they are an aftermarket product. The ones that start with the S as in Sierra, those are a OEM private labeled. So those are the same as what you would get if you went to Cummins, to Detroit, Freightliner, whatever, et cetera, et cetera. There's about a $100 to $200 price difference between them. The good thing about the OEM ones, if you're interested, if you want to stick with the OEM one, is that with those, there's no core charge, and they are, in my opinion, substantially cheaper than what you would go to a dealer and get this. So we're gonna go ahead and get it out, get it installed. And one thing I like to do with any type of NOx sensor, temp sensor, anything you're putting on this box is use a high temp anti-seize. That way if you have to do this again, hopefully it won't be seized up or you'd have to replace a bung or something of that nature. Okay, and we'll go underneath the truck and put it in. Okay, we got that all the way screwed in by hand. I'm going to use this wrench.
And then we just tighten it till it stops. Then after we tighten it, the main thing we want to check for is that this is snug, it doesn't turn. We just want to make sure it's all the way seated. Because if it's loose, then you're going to have exhaust gas and high temperatures leaking from there. Now we'll go ahead and get this all unraveled. And I recommend putting the probe in first, because if you put the module end on, you can get your cable all twisted up. So this way we have the cable nice and straight. And I put the screws back in. And if you're wondering why this chain is here, is because we've actually removed the DPF and DOC on this truck as well. We just put this underneath here to support this end of the after treatment device. So it goes nice and snug. Okay, now we'll go ahead and cable tie everything back up the way that it was, and we'll hook the harness back up. Sometimes these got a little bit of dust in them. If they are fighting you going back in, you can take an air gun and kind of blow out inside of there. But just go ahead and get it started. It should come in roughly 1/8 of an inch away, and then you just press it in and it pulls itself in, and that's it. So again, all we gotta do is cable tie everything back up and we're good to go. So changing the NOx sensor is as simple as that. Now in some cases, I have trouble getting the NOx sensor out. They can actually pull the threads out of the bung. Again, Snap-on does make a special tap that is for tapping these out. It's the same thread pitch and size. So if you're a mechanic or a shop, or you, again, like I said, I'm not affiliated with Snap-on or anything, but they do have some nice stuff for working on this stuff. So I mean, I'm sure there's other manufacturers as well. So we've had a lot of success with tapping these out if it did pull the threads out. Otherwise, if they happen to break off or the threads are just destroyed, you'd have to replace this bung, which we also carry many of those bungs as well. So, so we're gonna get this cable tied up, and that'd be pretty much it.
Okay, so when you're cable tying this up, I mean, you want to put it back as close to the way it was as possible. I would try to avoid any of the sheathing or any of the cables making contact, because it is very high temperatures, although this stuff is made for that. And then we got a little bit extra cable here, so we'll just kind of loop that up. Actually, we'll do it up here. Oh, boy.
And I don't like tails, so go through and cut all these off.
Okay. Okay, so the last step that we're going to perform here is we're going to go ahead and go in and clear everything, or clear all the fault codes. Some vehicles, once you replace it and after so many start and stop cycles, it automatically clear itself. So it's you don't necessarily have to have a software in a lot of cases, but we like to go ahead and clear everything, and then afterwards we'll perform a parked regen just to make sure everything's all happy and nice. So I'll go ahead and show you what we had on the codes here. And by the way, we are using jaw test software. It's a good multi-platform, I guess. Does ag equipment, heavy equipment, highway, on highway, off highway, pretty much anything. Anything you need to hook on to, it'll pretty well do. And we are also a dealer for jaw test as well. So we're a full line dealer, have all their software, hardware, everything, plugs, connections, all that good stuff, and tools as well. Should be on the DPF Discounter website as well in the future. So here's why we changed that knock sensor. Knock sensor behind the SCR catalyst, voltage low or shorted, and then the heating, nitrous oxide heating. So typically when I see those two faults, you know, it's when you see multiple faults for one knock sensor, it's pretty well dead to rights that it's going to need to be changed out. So we're going to go ahead and clear these. And everything is cleared. ECU has no fault codes. So what we'll do now, we'll use our jaw test software, go out and do a forced regen, just make sure nothing comes up, and that's pretty well the end of the job. So that's all we got for today. Pretty much all knock sensors, whether it's a Detroit, Freightliner, Kenworth, Volvo, pretty well the same process across the board. The connections can sometimes be different, especially like the Volvo Max, they have a different plug. For the most part, they're pretty well like the ones that we changed today, whether it be an inlet or an outlet, it's pretty well the same process. So that's pretty much it. So we appreciate you watching, hope this helps you out. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the bell for the updates, and like the video as well. And please check out dpfdiscounter.com for all your emissions and a lot of your other truck needs.